excited to have you here on the Scrunch Creator Economy podcast. Welcome.
Cheers. So excited to be joining you.
I'm so happy to be having a wine with you. So let's kick things off by telling people your story. Now, I know you've had a few ventures and you are a creator, so I'm so excited to get into the detail. Let's start with how you got here.
I feel like I've done all of the creating actually, because I've had a product business, a service business, and now a digital business, and they were all coming from a creative point of view. So how about I share with you how it all got started? Because I think a big fallacy in this industry is, hashtag entrepreneur is so glorified these days. It all looks so easy and wonderful. So I'm going to share with you what the reality is of running, big businesses. So I actually started as an engineer working on a construction site, building roads and bridges, until I realized that, that wasn't really lighting my creative fire. So I started a fashion label, which started as me on a sewing machine. I one day made 4 shirts and took them to the cool boutique in Brisbane, and they bought 4 shirts. The next week I made 8 shirts and they bought 8 shirts. And then 5 years later, I had 120 accounts around the world. We exported to Paris, Tokyo, LA, and South Africa. We dressed some of the biggest celebrities of the time, which back in the day was Paris Hilton. And this,
my God,
all before the internet. You talk about influencer marketing. This was before the internet. So I remember our meeting with Paris, and this was sort of before the internet. I used to have to pick up the phone and call people to see if they wanted to post them a lookbook. This is how long ago we're talking. And I remember our meeting with Paris, and she was like, if I wear all this stuff, everyone's going to buy your product. And I was like, you're a genius. And so she was the original influencer, right? So that business was great. It was something I thought I would do my whole life until the universe had grander plans for me. My manufacturer that was based in Vietnam went out of business and all of my stock, all of my product, about $70,000 worth of product with him, and took everything, my patents, all my fabrics, everything. And yes, that was how that business ended. So that business actually ended with me going bankrupt. I was left with more debt than any little fashionista would ever be able to afford to pay. And at that time, I realized that I'd worked myself to death. I ended up having a nervous breakdown on the side of the road. I had to get transported to hospital. In hospital, I found out that I had cancer. I already had stomach ulcers. I was taking anti-anxiety, antidepressants, and I was just in a very, very bad place.
Holy shit. No wonder we have wine. I'm happy we have wine for this conversation. Oh my God.
Buckle up. Yeah. I always say I was never going to start another business, and I swore I would never do another business. And that lasted about a year until I realized that, no, I need to start another business. I'm a creator. This is what I do. So my second business was a service-based business, which I'm sure a lot of your audience is. So this is where I was working as a fashion stylist, and I was working one-on-one with people. So making over people personally, that's where we started. And again, eventually it led into me becoming quite a successful fashion stylist. So I had 2 of the best roles in the country. So I was the fashion editor of Women's Health and Fitness magazine and the resident stylist at Southern Cross Austereo, which at the time was our biggest radio and TV network. And I was styling all of our favorite actors for, all the Logies and things here, but then also Cannes Film Festival and some really big international events. And at the same time, I'd just done Project Runway Australia and landed a gig as the TV reporter for Fashion TV. So I was traveling around the country, going to all the best glam and fashion events and interviewing every celebrity in the country, and literally thought I was living my hashtag best life, and thought that I would be doing that for my entire life because I'm a little fashionista. So I was like, this is it. This is as good as it gets. This is what I'll do to the day I die. And again, the universe had grander plans for me. And again, in the course of about 1 month, I lost 2 jobs due to GFC. And I found myself unemployed and unemployable. I tried to go back to the construction site. They didn't want to give me a job. I tried to get bar work. I literally couldn't get a job. And I just had absolutely nothing. I was faced with a really incredible depression. I spent about 6 months just in my bed, in my room going, my life's over, contemplating, do I live any further? Do I end it now? A very serious depression, until I realized that, I eventually got myself out of that. And then I realized that I have a lot of knowledge. I've built a lot of really big global businesses, and I can teach that. And so this was in 2015, my third business, which is the business that I run now. I started with a passion. I knew that I wanted to help the next generation of stylists. I knew that I had knowledge I could share. I knew how to build a fashion styling business, and I knew I could teach the next generation. So I got my iPhone out and I sat down one day and I just told you how to build a fashion styling business. Like there was no structure, there was no big idea about it. I just knew how to do this. And that business has now gone on to become, again, a global business where I teach thousands of women all over the world in multiple courses. So that course was my first course. We made 6 figures in the first year. Wow. My second course is a personal branding and publicity course, because obviously I was very good with publicity, being a fashion editor and a TV presenter. And so that course teaches that kind of skill. And that course made 6 figures in 6 months. My third course is a mindset course. So I'm very passionate about mindset.
Good. I love that. We have to explore that. Yep.
Totally. As someone who's experienced some pretty severe depression, I'm very, very passionate about getting your mindset right. And then my latest course is a course about courses. So I teach you how to create this business. So how to take your knowledge out of your head and turn it into something that can be sold while you sleep or while you surf or while you travel the world, which is what I used to do pre-COVID. So that's
my God. That is a lot.
I'm exhausted just talking about this.
I know. Well, look, I didn't want to interrupt you because I love the story and the progression, but little insight for people listening is that I actually studied fashion design in Queensland at QUT, and I interned for you all the way back when you had the fashion label.
Oh my God.
I know. It's insane. I remember it so clearly, like coming in going, oh my God, this is so exciting. You were working with the biggest, obviously Paris, like the biggest stuff. And you helped me so much with my little uni assignments all the way back in the day. So it was such a cool experience. When I saw your name coming onto this podcast, I was like, oh my God, the world has come full circle. This is incredible.
Oh, I love this. That's so beautiful. Beautiful.
And so I'd love to explore, like there's so much to go into right now, but all the way back when you went from engineer to business owner, like that's huge, going from I studied, I was an employee, and now I'm going to do my own thing. Like how was that mindset shift? How did you know how to run a business?
No, I didn't know how to run a business. Everything that I've ever done has been through trial and error. And I think back then I quit, but I quit as a young person. So I quit when I was sort of 21, 22, and I started that business. And with all of my business ventures, I never knew what I was getting myself into. Like back then, it never used to be called entrepreneurship, and it was not cool. So
yes, true.
It used to be embarrassing, like, oh, you can't get a job, so you've got to run a little business. Like that was the energy. So it wasn't ever something that I was like, I'm going to start a business. It was just something that I was like, I'm passionate about this, so I'm going to do this because it's a nice way to fill my time, and it makes me feel enriched each day, and I'll do this until I find a job. That was the mindset. These days it's a little bit different because we all know, like, hey, this is possible. You can work for yourself, and it's sort of glamorous, and it's
it's glamorous on Instagram. It's not glamorous in real life.
Yeah. So I think that the mindset, it was just more about like, I was looking at the progression of the engineers, and I knew I was never going to be them. Like I was never going to be like, they were 50-year-old, really fat, aggressive men. And I'm like, well, I'm literally never.
You really didn't want to aspire to that? Yeah. That's crazy.
Right. So it was just sort of like, well, I'm not going to climb that ladder. So I have to find something else. And I was just very passionate. I was always going to get into fashion ever since I was a kid. I was always really passionate about it. So yeah, it was never a big intention setting of like, I'm going to turn this into a global thing. It was just something that I followed my bliss. And even with this business as well, I never thought this was going to be a thing like this. I recorded my e-course in 2015. I used to have to explain to people what an e-course was. And I used to
well, that's super interesting because that's what I was going to touch on is no one was doing courses in 2015. Like that was a COVID thing. So you were so ahead of the game there. Like where did that inspiration come from to go, I've got all of these skills and these two options haven't kind of worked out, but I've got so many skills that are transferable that I can teach other people?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was just a touch of fate, right? Like I'd love to say it was my idea, but it really wasn't. I mean, I have a brother who's my closest friend in the whole world, and he is my mentor and my, person who guides me in life. And he was sort of going, you need to build an e-course. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll build an e-course. Like with no great intention. Like, remember, I was still coming out of a deep depression. So I was doing anything to not leave my room, basically. So I was just like, cool, if I can sit inside and record something on camera, cool, I can do that. Also, I was very comfortable on camera, having been a TV presenter for 5 years. So it was sort of like one of those things. Like, I always am reminded of the story of Steve Jobs. Tells the story of when he gave that graduation speech, and he tells the story about how he skipped a lot of his college classes and he went and stumbled into a class on calligraphy. And that's why the fonts on the Mac were beautiful fonts.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And I feel like my journey is the same. Like, I never decided that this is what I wanted to do, but to be a great digital marketer, as you would know, you need to have really good analytic skills, which is what an engineer has. To be a great teacher, you need to be really good with people, which is what a personal stylist is. So I feel like a lot of my past experiences have kind of slotted together. And this is honestly the first time I feel like I'm really living all of my skills all in the one business. Because as a fashion stylist, I never really used my engineering degree. But in this business, I use my engineering degree every day. Like, running Facebook ads and building funnels is hard. You need to be really, analytical and mathematical. And so this is the first time, which sounds insane because I'm like pushing 40 at this point. And this is the first time that I feel like I'm really using all of the gifts that I've been given. So if anyone's listening to this going, oh, I've missed the boat, or it's too late for me, or like, I tried something and it didn't work. Like, this is my third attempt at a business. And this is the first time that I feel like I'm pretty well getting it pretty close right now. Like, this is pretty good.
Well, and I love that you said that, because I think sometimes people, I mean, look, my mum even texted me this today. She's like, how do you figure out that one thing that, you've got to do, or that you're good at? And I'm like, I don't think that is the thing. I think it is this culmination of all of our lives experience, trying this, experimenting, seeing what works, having a job, working for somebody else, then starting our own thing. It's all of that comes together. So I love that is your story, that it's actually, what, I went out there and I gave it a go, and that's when everything came together for me.
And also, like, often the thing that you go down, so I always say to just follow your bliss. So what do you want to do on a Sunday morning, or what would you give to the world for free, or what would you teach if you go and teach a class on it, even if no one showed up, you'd still be happy to teach it. So that's the thing that you should be doing, whether it pays your bills or not. And this is a big thing for creators, is that we put so much effort on the creation paying our bills, right? Which is what I had with my fashion label, and absolutely with my fashion styling. It needed to pay my bills, which put a lot of pressure on the creativity and the joy of it. Like, that business wasn't fun in the end. Like, running a fashion label was not fun because I wasn't being creative, doing the thing that I loved. I was focused on, can I pay my rent? Am I making any money? So that took all of the joy and the passion out of it. But yeah, going back to like, what's my purpose? What's my one thing? It's really just like, what would you do? What's your bliss? What's your, what lights you up on a Sunday morning? Follow that path and see where that path leads. It may not be the thing, but it may lead you to another thing that becomes a thing. Or it may just be that you're so enriched doing that on a Sunday that you don't mind doing your 9 to 5 every week, because your 9 to 5 pays well and it's easy and it doesn't really, it doesn't cause you too much stress. So maybe that's how you live your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone should be monetizing their passion.
It's so true, because I think the thing is business is really hard. Like, really hard. So if you're not getting some kind of enjoyment or some kind of joy, some kind of lighting yourself up, whether that is the weekend thing or it is the thing that you've chosen to pursue as a business, then it's going to be really tough to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. And I think with a lot of creators as well, or creatives, they're really passionate about building this one particular thing. Like, I loved fashion. I love dressing people. I love styling people. But the business side of fashion styling, that's not fun. Like, I'm constantly chasing money for, people for debts and pitching work. Like, I did like hundreds of hours of business development every week. I don't want to do that. But that was the reality of running that as a business. If I was running that as a hobby, totally different game, like, it's still just the fun. I'm dressing and it's fun and it's all the fabulous bits of it. So again, I think, like, if you're a creative, get really clear about what you really love. If you love baking cupcakes, then bake cupcakes and have your friends over to eat cupcakes. If you want to open a bakery and run a business, then go and do that. But they're very different skills and very different things to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so I want to talk about mindset for a second, because A, I know you have a course, but B, I know that you have gone through it. So as you transitioned and as things changed, so as the fashion label didn't work, as the fashion styling moved on, and as you started to create a business that was relatively unknown, how did you manage your mindset and come out of those hard times?
I'd love to say there was a little pill that I took and it was just so easy. Sadly, it's not, well, in my experience, it's not been like that. For me, mindset is a very diplomatic, day to day, like you must do this. This is your number one priority, and it's a work thing. Like it's like a just as though you would take your body to the gym every day. I had to make sure that I was working on my mindset and doing work. And so that's, I've got lots of little practices which I share in my course, but I developed a lot of little practices that I knew I had to sit down, and it would take 15 minutes, 20 minutes every day. And I had to sit down and do it. And it became a discipline kind of thing. And it was just doing that, over and over and over again, that I literally rewired my brain to be going, during the Deep Depression, it was like, very, very, very dark, to a little bit less dark, slightly darker. Okay, I can get out of bed. All right, cool. I'm doing okay today. Today's a good day. I'm doing better. And now I can start going on with my life. But, again, I think a lot of people think there's one, just do this one thing and you'll be great. In my experience, it wasn't that. It's just a really slow, gradual training, the same way you would train your body.
Yeah. And that's such a great point as well, because I feel like if you don't have 15 to 20 minutes a day to dedicate to something that's as important as your mind or your body, then what are you doing? It's really interesting. I know. And look, I'm guilty of this as a business owner. I feel guilty if I'm not working, but I have learned that if I don't look after myself, then I'm just not going to perform in my business anyway.
Yeah. And there's some key, I guess, ways to consider yourselves as well. Like I'm very compassionate towards myself. I'm very generous with myself, which is not, I wasn't like that for a long time. I used to be really awful to myself. Like the words that I used to say in my own head were awful. Whereas now I'm very aware of what's going on in my head. I'm very aware of like, hey, am I being kind to myself today, and making sure that my needs are a priority. And again, as women, that's not often something that we consider. Like we're always so focused on what's going on outside, and can we help our partner, and can we help our family, and can we do something for someone else? But because it feels selfish to be like, no, I'm the priority today, so I'm going to look after me today.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
Yeah, something that I've really had to focus on.
Yeah, but you do have to make it a priority, right? I think that's, if you have anything that you want, any priority, whether it's a business, whether it's, feeling better, whether it's the mindset, you've got to dedicate daily time to it, or it just doesn't happen.
Exactly. We all know that about the gym. Like we all know we can't just like do the gym once a month and like we
I wish that was the case.
Also, I just wish there was a pill for the gym, right? Like no one wants to go pill and then be like have the body that we want. Yeah. But we all know that, and that's the thing. We all know that that's not how it works with the body. But we all kind of expect something different for the mind, and that's not how it works. It's the exact same thing. So if you know that you need to take your body to the gym three days a week, then you know that you're going to need to do at least that for your mind.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to talk a second for around the difference between being kind of an influencer / creator in the traditional sense to being a business owner, because I know because of the network that you've built up over time, you've also built quite a large following in particular niches. How have you used that to your business advantage?
So I guess before this business, when I was heavy in fashion, I was kind of what you would say an influencer, which is where I found Scrunch and where I sort of initially reconnected with you. So that was great, but I just wasn't monetizing a lot, Well, I was doing a lot of brand deals, but it wasn't sort of like that regular income, reliable, predictable income that, we like to have as creators. So I guess moving more into a product that I own, where it's my courses, or for anyone listening, it could be, it could be anything. It could be a book. You own your book, you own any IP. So you own a course, you own a coaching program, you own, anything that you can monetize, like a podcast, you own your podcast, get sponsors onto your podcast. So any IP that you can monetize, I think really for all creators is what you want to be focused on building. So productize your knowledge into something that you can sell over and over again on that one-to-many scale.
That is the best advice ever. I love that, because I see so many creators who have massive followings, but really struggle to monetize, and they're out pitching sponsored post after sponsored post. And it's kind of becomes a little bit soul destroying for them, because instead of working for your followers or your audience, you start working for the brands and really just trying to please them. So I love that. Build an asset, build IP for yourself. I guess the thing is though, is it's almost important to do both, like have that audience and have the IP. And it's really interesting because you think about a regular brand that didn't have a face of, they're out there trying to build an audience in a particular niche to sell product. And I think if influencers and creators kind of think about themselves in the same way, where they're like, I need to build authority, expertise, followers around a particular industry so that I can monetize it, they can kind of start to take on some of the big brands.
Exactly. And outperform some of the big brands. I mean, we all connect better to a human than we do to a big brand, right? And if you don't know, if you're listening in the audience and you don't know what your product would be just yet, the best advice I can give you is just build your email list. Because you have an email list and you can do with it what you want later on. Just nurture that list, get them onto a MailChimp, it's free, get them onto anything and just send them a regular newsletter updating them on what you're up to. And then later on down the track, you'll figure something out, whether you build an app or whether you create a podcast or whatever, or a course, whatever it is for you. But step one, grow your email list, because the platform that you're currently on, whatever platform that is, and no matter what it is, you don't own that. So there's no point in building an asset on a platform that you don't own. You want to get your audience over to an asset that you own, which is your email list.
That is so awesome. Do you have any tips for growing that email list?
So the best thing is just to figure out what I call an irresistible freebie. So, and I've got a little download. Why don't we give everyone a little download? And perfect, great. So what you want to do is create some sort of PDF or some sort of offering that your audience would love to get from you. So the most common one is a PDF. We've all seen them, but maybe you can go above and beyond. Maybe you can do a little 5-part video series, which is just you in front of your camera. You shoot 5 videos and you set it up. It's so simple to set these things up these days. In fact, you could pretty much do the whole thing on MailChimp. I'm not promoting MailChimp because
I know ours is on MailChimp too, so I'm with you.
It's simple. Yeah.
So easy, yeah.
There's lots of ways to deliver your product, but there's so many different ways. Like quizzes are really high converting. But if you're a creator and you don't have a product, you probably just want to do a video or some sort of additional info that they're not going to get on your Instagram or on your TikTok or whatever it is. So some private content, gated content that's for subscribers only. So it's a bit exclusive. Maybe it's even just a regular monthly coffee chat with you, a live coffee chat. Like I'd sign up to that with my favorite creators. So think about what you can do to offer people the exclusive access to either content or yourself, and then put that behind an email gate. So they have to sign up and give you their email, and then start building that relationship that you can productize later on.
That is incredible. So my last question for you then is, if you were giving advice to someone who is say an influencer, they've built up a little bit of an audience, but they're just kind of getting started, and they're realizing that they don't want to be on the influencer hamster wheel and that they do want to create something for themselves, what would be your best tip to get started?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think if you have any sort of audience, you can monetize that with an online course. So even if you think like, no, I need 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers or whatever it is, people that go through my online program, I tell you how to sell your course before you create it, and you can sell it with 100 followers. So if you've got 100 followers, and if you've got any level of expertise, so if you have been through a trauma and overcome it, if you've got incredible expertise in a particular area, if you have if the thing that people come to you and ask you, can I pick your brain about, or can I have a coffee about, whatever it is, I have hundreds of examples of students that have monetized that into e-courses. My favorite one I was thinking about this afternoon was one of my students is a passionate rodeo rider. So she rides rodeo, like
random.
right?
Yes, awesome.
Right. And then she's also super passionate. She's like hair and makeup and beauty, like me, super passionate into fashion styling. And she created an e-course that helps fellow female rodeo riders match their hair and makeup and outfit to their horse, because they compete, right? They compete in, gaming.
This is incredible.
Yeah. And so she created a whole course. I'm like, you're a genius. This is exactly how you combine all of your passions to create a course that people need. Like, she was like, these girls have no idea how to dress. They're wearing the wrong color for their horse. I'm like, oh girl, they need help,
like they need what you have.
Obviously they need what you have. And like, who else would ever, no one else in the entire world would ever teach that course. Like, it's so unique. And that's the beauty of e-courses, is that what you have to offer is so unique to you that no one else could ever teach it. Like, my second course, for instance, was a personal brand and publicity course, because I was a TV presenter and a fashion editor and on magazine covers and writing magazine copy. Like, so no one was ever both of those things. And that was what my second course was all about, is how to get yourself on podcasts such as this, how to speak eloquently on podcasts as a TV presenter. So again, like, that was such a unique level of experience that no one else in the entire world would ever have. So start packaging up maybe 2 or 3 areas of your unique abilities, and finding the other people like you that need help with that.
That's so amazing. And I also love that you said to sell it first, like sell it first and sell it to a small audience. I think some people do get trapped in that, oh, I've got to have 1 million followers or I'm not going to be able to get anywhere. I love that you said, if you've got 100 followers, you can sell something.
You can sell your course. Yeah, I have a whole formula. It's called the minimum viable product formula. And so it's like the MVP. Yeah. And so
we're absolutely linking that to everybody, because I know that the people listening are going, give it to me. I need to know how to do this.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, for having a virtual Vino with the Scrunch creator community. You are absolutely amazing. We will link up everything that we talked about, because I know that everyone listening would have gotten so much value. I can't thank you enough for your time.
My absolute pleasure. And if anyone's listening to this, come and send me a DM or comment on Instagram and say that you heard me here. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for having me, Danielle. So great to see your face again.
Amazing.